Hey, you guys, it's Kenny Ray, and welcome back to the Crafted and Carved podcast. I'm so excited that you're joining us today. I just wanted to check in because I have done the monumental task of recording a live show for you guys that we streamed this past Sunday. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up because this episode is going to be a little different and also it's a little bit long. So just sit tight. It's going to be amazing. I love you for being here. Enjoy the episode. Hello. This is Kenny Ray on the Crafted and Carved podcast. I'm so excited. We're doing a live show today. So hopefully this goes as well as our recorded shows because honestly, you guys, I have a lot of bloopers. I have a lot of moments where I have brain farts and I just say all kinds of stuff that I don't mean and things that I'm just like, what? What was I thinking? So this is going to be interesting. It's unfiltered. Obviously I'm not a cusser. I'm not somebody that's going to sit up here and just be saying whatever. But at the same time, I am a straight shooter. So hopefully they don't kick us off the air. I don't actually know what the rules are on Podbean. If you guys have never been on here before, you click the link to join. It is an incredible hosting database where we distribute the podcast so that you guys can listen to it on all the different platforms like Apple and Spotify and all that good stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that I shouted them out because it has been such a fun experience and an experience for me as a new podcaster having no idea what I'm doing. Using Podbean is so user-friendly, so easy. This is not an ad, by the way. Honestly, I feel like I should make sure I reach out to them to see if I can get a little coin because I'm definitely talking them up. But yes, I'm such a huge fan. I hope you guys will enjoy the platform. We're definitely going to test this format out and see how it goes. And if we do it again, hopefully it goes just as good. So yes, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for the ones who are listening after the live. I love you just as much. And, the flow is pretty much going to be the same. We're not going to change anything up. I did want to make sure that I share with you guys to go follow on Instagram at Carved Wellness. That's at CarvedWellness. That is the IG page. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to all of our content as well as our YouTube channel. We are keeping everything up to date on YouTube and Instagram. So it's not like a bajillion different platforms. It's just YouTube and Instagram as our social media platforms that we send updates. And I make sure that if there's anything going on, like definitely make sure that the live information was available so you guys knew how to get to me today. So that is the social media arm of the podcast. And then I wanted to kind of just go over what the podcast is again. Obviously, for those who listen somewhat regularly, you know that we are in our relationship series, which is the second series of the podcast. This is episode 15, you guys. So we're ripping and running, and I'm so excited to be able to continue to give you guys good content, to continue to open up and share and explore these topics with you guys because it has been so nourishing for my soul to kind of go through these different areas, especially for those who didn't listen to last week's episode. I definitely have been going through my own difficulties navigating relationships. I recently went through a breakup. And so just for me, it's almost like having a space to be able to talk through relationship dynamics and to ponder some of the things that I did wrong and some of the things that the other person did wrong and some of the things that I wish they would have done differently. Some of the things that I wish I would have done differently. I feel like has been so helpful for me. It has been so encouraging. I feel that I have gotten the juju. I don't know what that is. Like the what? I feel like I have gotten the boost that I need to be my best self and come back strong next time around. So I'm definitely going to be re-listening to some of these episodes because I need them. But I also just love talking as well and sharing things that are on my heart and my mind because it's like a really good way for me to kind of get some of this stuff out. So, anyway, I definitely just wanted to. So that wasn't the initial purpose of the podcast, right? The initial purpose of the podcast wasn't intended to be like an outlet for me. And I don't really want it to be an outlet per se. Like, I'm not going to be the type of person that comes on here ranting and just like letting you guys have it or telling you all the things that I feel are important because I just don't feel like that would be really effective or efficient for anybody's time. There are plenty of podcasts that do that, more power to them, but that's not what we're doing here. Like, I wanted to make sure that I reiterate that this is a safe space. This is a space where we can learn, we can grow together, where we can discuss. It is a discussion. And so I hope that as, you know, the days go on, the weeks go by, the months go by, that you guys will feel more comfortable with getting more engaged in your own way, whether that be through sending me a DM on Instagram. You guys can always send me a DM to send feedback or suggestions or just ideas or questions even that you want to discuss on the show. So anyway, yeah, as days go on and time goes on, I really hope and that I can encourage you guys to engage so that everybody is getting the benefit of this platform. And that's what it's here for. It's here for me, but it's here for y'all. It's definitely here for y'all more than it is for me. So anyway, the podcast is hopefully something that will transcend just an outlet or any sort of sounding board and can kind of come into your home, your office space, your car, and really just reach and touch your heart and just help you to grow and expand your mind, body, and spirit through wellness. So yeah, that's the Crafted and Carved podcast, you guys, and go back and listen to episode 1. Like I said, available on all different platforms if you want to get some more insider information as to what the podcast is about, why I named it what I named it, the verse that is our anchor verse, and all of that good stuff. So, all right. That was a fun introduction. It feels like we're starting like something new, like, you know, like something new is about to jump off and just be like so bomb. And I'm kind of scared. Like, wait a minute. What is about to happen? So, nothing is about to happen except we are going to go ahead and dive into today's topic, which is all about relationship cornerstones, which we've been covering for the last couple of episodes. Relationship cornerstones being the thing that is essential, the foundational anchor piece that connects everything together and that holds everything together that you will build upon, right, in your relationships. And the reason why we're focusing on relationship cornerstones is because obviously, there are so many different types of relationships. This particular series is not about romantic relationships. The series that we do after this, the third phase or the third series of the season, will be all about romantic relationships. So for anybody who's been waiting on the edge of their seat, it's coming. Don't worry. That's a spoiler alert. But since we're live, I wanted to give you guys that little piece of information. So we will go head first, heart open into some romantic relationship dynamics and really break those down because I do feel that, you know, there has been such a challenge in today's world, but particularly if you are a millennial like me with dating, marriage, even, marriage is falling apart, all sorts of stuff. Those relationship dynamics are not as solid as our grandparents, and we need to get to the bottom of it. So that will come later. I will announce that. It's not coming anytime soon, y'all, but I will announce that later on. But we're in the relationship series, and so we're just diving into the different things that I have determined or I believe are really important in terms of being foundational for any relationship. So that's friendship, family, even some of your co-working relationships, business relationships, things like that. You will need these cornerstones to really cement you and the other people involved so that you can build successfully on top and really grow and really thrust yourself into a space of success and amazingness, and you will flourish and have relationships that flourish. Last week we did our relationships cornerstone was about understanding. So how can we better position ourselves to understand each other, understand the other individual? And a lot of these cornerstones have a running theme of selflessness, which, I think we don't hear that word enough because we're always hearing self-care, self-love, self. When in reality, that's wonderful and that is important because we do obviously do a lot for others and push ourselves to be there and encourage and love and protect others without pouring into ourselves. So that definitely has to be reversed and shifted. And so if you listen to our foundational series, which were the first 11 episodes, I believe, in the podcast, you will see that we cover everything that you need to do to pour into yourself so that you can be stable, you can be one with yourself, you can be whole, you can be good, so you can be ready for these relationships, so that you can walk into these spaces with other people and know exactly where you're at, where you're going, and why. So if you haven't listened to those, go and check them out, because the disclaimer that I have been giving on all of these relationship cornerstone episodes is that none of this stuff is going to be helpful to you unless you have done the work on yourself. And yes, there's so much work that can be done from, here to there, from everywhere, that the 11 episodes from the foundational series may not cover every single thing, but I promise you, I did so much work. I did so much homework trying so hard to cover as many of the different things that I feel like are so important to you, just really being connected with you and loving on yourself and pouring into yourself, that it's at the very least, incredibly good start to getting you there, to getting you whole, to getting you well, so that you can enter into the relationship that you desire. And those relationships be healthy and happy and flourishing. So again, that is the disclaimer. Make sure that you are good. Go listen to episodes 1 through 11 if you haven't. Check yourself against those episodes, because they will let you know what work needs to be done. If you're sitting up here thinking, oh my gosh, I'm good, I don't need that, go listen to them anyway. Double check, make sure you're good. Then come back and check in with us for episode 15, Relationship Cornerstone. So this week's cornerstone, you guys, is comfort zones. So it's interesting because the cornerstone is not comfort zone, because that's what you absolutely don't need in a relationship. The cornerstone is actually that you need to get out of your comfort zone. And so that's why you got the title here of the live episode says how to get out of your comfort zones. And I think that it is twofold, right? What we're going to do today, because I really wanted to take that deeper dive into what a comfort zone is. If you've been listening to any of these other episodes, you will know that I have been trying my hardest in spaces that I know something about, but I don't fully grasp everything. I've been going in and getting some help from some articles. A lot of them have been psychology articles because a lot of this stuff really does start in the mind. And so this episode is going to kind of break down two different things. I think we're going to dive into what comfort zones are and why we create them. And then I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how comfort zones, are intersected with our relationship dynamics and why we need to, and basically just how to handle that, how to handle the comfort zone when it comes to relationships and why we need to leave it. Because the reality is, and I'll get into it later, not all comfort zones are bad, right? And so we just need to be aware of them. Awareness is everything. Like that is literally like my motto right now, is that awareness is everything. So if you can bring awareness to the situation, that's always the first step, because they always say that denial is always, like overcoming your denial is always the first step. So when you can bring awareness to the fact that, hey, like I might be shifting into a comfort zone, like I might be stuck in my old ways or just outdated thinking. So, so let's dive in, you guys. I'm excited. So I wanted to start off with like a basic Google definition, because I want this to be our working definition. This is the definition that I posted on our Instagram page, so you can read along if you have our Instagram up for any reason. But it just says that a comfort zone is a familiar psychological state where people are at ease and they may even perceive they are in control of their environment, experiencing low levels of anxiety and stress. And I thought this was a great definition, particularly because as it's read, when it says perceive they are, that part is in parentheses. So technically it would be read as where people are at ease and in control of their environment. But the reality is, more times than not, they're never actually in control of their environment. They just perceive that they are. So that helps them to feel at ease, and it helps them to experience low levels of anxiety and stress. And so that is our working definition for what a comfort zone is. But I definitely, pulled some articles, some really good ones, one that really dives into the psychology of it, and then one that's a little bit more free flowing. And I wanted to also pull their definitions as well, because I thought that they would be useful. But before I do that, I just want to tell you, like I said earlier, all the reasons why I think that comfort zones are not all bad. And that's why I like our Google definition, because it doesn't really imply that a comfort zone is bad. It doesn't have this undertone of a comfort zone being a negative thing, because I do think the reality is that, very few things in life that are attached to positivity are bad. And so if a comfort zone, as long as you're not doing any self-harming, as long as you're not like wallowing in toxic behavior patterns in your quote unquote comfort zone, then it's probably not a bad space, right? But it's all about moderation, like everything in life, like food or alcohol consumption. Like there's nothing intrinsically bad about food. There's nothing intrinsically bad about alcohol. In fact, both of those things have benefits when consumed in the way that they were intended to be consumed, and when used in the way that they were intended to be used. But the second that you cross that line into overindulgence, it's like that's when the negative result starts to kind of seep in. So we really got to strike that balance, right? And the same thing is with comfort zones. Like you definitely need to have a comfort zone of some sorts in your life, whether that be, your comfort zone be sleeping in your bed for, longer than you normally would, or, just staying indoors and reading a book as opposed to going outside and meeting new people, or, you know, hang out with your family and calling your mom or whatever your comfort zone is, as long as it is not attached to something that is just inherently toxic. It's not a bad thing, right? And we talk about this in terms of the wellness well, and the wellness well being this kind of bank of resources that you create for yourself so that you can revitalize your spirit, your mind, your body, and just nourish yourself when you need it. You know, that is what allows you to be able to give yourself to all of the different spaces and have the energy that you need to show up when you need to show up for the different things and the different people that you have to show up for. But the reality is we are human beings with jobs and lives and all sorts of things. And so we can't just sit around nourishing ourselves all day long. Like, it is best when it is used for what it is meant for, which is to recharge, which is to revitalize, and then keep it going. The extreme, right, of, I guess, kind of not resorting to your comfort zone would be to live on the edge and just like constantly pushing yourself off the deep end before you're even ready. And that's not good either. Like, you need to have a certain amount of preparation sometimes. That I think preparation is healthy. I think it's necessary. I think rest is healthy. I think that's necessary. And so you can't just constantly just push yourself when you're not ready and when you're not prepared and when you don't have it. So that's not good either. But again, everything in moderation, find that balance. So that again is the Google definition that I explained earlier. That's our working definition. And then I just wanted to make sure I gave that disclaimer because not all comfort zones are bad, so that you guys understand the perspective of where we're coming from, finding the moderation, and then particularly for the people that struggle to get out of their comfort zone. And you might be someone like me who I don't even do comfort zones in the like everyday life thing. I don't like, I'm just always like risking it all. But I can't really say that, right? Because that's not in everything. I think that it is in areas where some people would probably be more careful and cautious. And, there are probably some realities where I'm like, dang, I should have been more careful and cautious like these people. But then there are some areas where I am not able or ready to leave my comfort zone, and I am overly careful and overly cautious, and I need to pay attention to that. And for me, and lucky for you guys, that space for me is actually relationships. Like, I really, 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 really struggle to leave my comfort zone of what I know in relationships. So this is going to be great for both of us, all of us. The definitions that I got from the other articles, we've got a positive psychology article that gives us the definition of a comfort zone. And it reads that comfort zone is a behavioral state within which a person operates in an anxiety neutral condition using a limited set of behaviors to deliver a steady level of performance, usually without a sense of risk. So yeah, that is the definition. I like this one. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I think it's psychology-esque, but I don't think that it is too different from the one from Google. I think that it is pretty spot on for the most part. So I'm okay with this one as well. It just kind of adds those psychology, terms of art that kind of scare me sometimes, to be honest, if I'm being perfectly honest. But no, I think it's all good. I think this is a great definition. The other article that I found came from betterup.com, which also is a psychology related website, but it's more of a resource website for the everyday individual looking for just ideas and thoughts and whatever to help them navigate everyday life and just feel good about themselves and feel good about life and how they can just grow and be their best selves, kind of like with what we do here on the podcast. So their definition, which is actually very simple and straightforward, I really like. It is that the comfort zone is a psychological state in which a person feels at ease because they are not being tested. Now, I'm sure for all of y'all who, you grew up in the church, you know exactly why I love this, because I feel like that's literally the mindset that I live in. Like, if I'm not being tested, then I feel like something is wrong. Like something is off. Like I feel like the Lord is always testing me in some way, shape, or form. And the reality is also, if you grew up in this church dynamic, what I'm trying to get at is that we have been indoctrined to understand that being tested good, going through trials and challenges and tribulations are a good thing. They're a sign that the Lord is pushing you for greater and greater and greater. And there are so many verses in the Bible that speak to that. And I'm going to read you guys one later on, not right now, but later on to kind of reiterate that. So those are all of the different definitions. And I hope that you find ease and connection and you resonate with at least one of them. So yeah, I wanted to dive into some of the things that these articles talked about, particularly the positive psychology article, because I want to really break down what a comfort zone is and how we end up creating them for ourselves. And the reason why is because I feel like sometimes we think that it's just like we have to thrust ourselves out of this space, when in reality, it's actually much harder than, like, it's actually much harder than we're trying to make it seem. And I want you guys to know that if you're struggling to leave your comfort zone, or if you feel like, oh my God, like you're asking me to do something that's impossible, like, look, first and foremost, I struggle with all of this stuff. So you're not alone. Second of all, I mean, it's called a comfort zone for a reason. Like we're wired as humans to want to run towards ease and satisfaction and pleasure and run away from challenges, difficulties, and tension. We don't want that. So you're not alone in that. We're all wired that way. But yeah, the article definitely, it goes so deep, and I struggle with how deep I wanted to go. But there's a lot of good information here. And so I wanted to share with you something. It's called the Yerkes and Dodson law. Now, whenever I say anything like this, I immediately get anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, this feels like it is too intense. But the reality is the Yerkes and Dodson law is pretty simple. I'm actually looking at a graph. I know you guys can't see it. So I'm going to try to explain to you what it's showing. But essentially, the Yerkes and Dodson law is talking more so about like our performance as humans and like the reality that even though our comfort zone is a space in which we are hoping to avoid anxiety and stress, that a certain amount of anxiety and stress is actually proven to be helpful or useful in order for us to reach our optimal level of performance. So there's a chart here, and it's essentially just like a curve, and it's showing that when we when we push ourselves, or when we create low levels of anxiety, when we're situated in spaces that have low levels of anxiety, low levels of stress, we tend to have boredom. And we tend to kind of perform with what we need to, but not really at the level that we could. We could be performing at level 8, right? But we're not really want to be stressed out today. We don't want any anxiety. We don't want any pressure. So because of that, we kind of we would think that it would make us perform better, but we end up kind of performing at like a 3 or 4. And this particular law says that when we have a reasonable amount of anxiety, a reasonable amount of good stress, we perform at an optimal level. Like our performance is exactly meeting what we're capable of and what we're willing to exert. And then at the very end of the spectrum is when we have a high level of anxiety, a high level of stress. Then that is when there is a decrease, a proven decrease in performance. We begin to panic. We go into panic mode. And sometimes when we're in panic mode, the anxiety is so overwhelming that it causes us to shut down. So you don't want that either. You want to strike, like I said, strike that balance where you're right in the middle, a little bit of healthy anxiety and stress, and optimal performance. And I totally agree with that. I actually really love that. I feel like that chart really blessed me because I was like, oh my gosh, like Instagram is lying to you guys. Like they're telling you guys, like, if you don't like it, then leave it. If you're not feeling it, get away. If it's stressing you out, then walk away. And that's just not how life works. Like everything within reason, everything within moderation, everything is relative, you know? So just don't run with a lot of the things that you see today, trendy wise, that, you know, are telling you that this is the best way to live life, because a lot of this stuff people are just posting to get likes, and it is not really true. And some of them are already millionaires and they work hard and they endure stress, and then they tell you not to stress. Like, just know that everything is relative and that you don't want to be that person that ends up with no job because you're like, I'm not dealing with this stress today. Anyway, so I really enjoyed that chart. That blessed me. The next aspect of this art is actually another chart. This article is full of charts. So I hate that you guys cannot see these. But this one, I will just make sure that I explain. It's actually even easier to explain because it actually is breaking down the different types of comfort zones, or the different types of zones, not comfort zones. So there's comfort zone, the fear zone, the learning zone, and the growth zone. So in the last chart, we're mostly focused on performance and the reality that sometimes when we experience fear, we tend to retort to our comfort zone, but that obviously a healthy amount of anxiety or even a healthy amount of reasonable, you know, structured fear is good and helps us reach optimal performance. But this is all about the different types of zones that we enter into as we progress through different challenges in life. Okay. And then zone being the lowest of them, fear zone being next, learning zone after that, and then the growth zone being the highest zone. And I think that's the zone we all want to live in, right? So the comfort zone is the zone in which we feel safe and that we are in control. Then, as we continue to progress, we can exit the comfort zone and then we just kind of enter into the fear zone. We're leaving our comfort zone and we're a little scared. We got one foot out, we got one toe in the kiddie pool, and we've entered the fear zone where we are still affected by others' opinions. We often find excuses, and then we might dip our toe back out and run back into the comfort zone, and we also lack a lot of self-confidence. So that is the fear zone. Y'all, this article is blessing me today because I'm like, wait a minute, this is me. I thought I was, I was here, but technically, no, I live here. And then the learning zone is the zone in which after we leave the fear zone, okay, we're no longer affected by others' opinions. We're no longer making excuses, and we're no longer having this lack of self-confidence. Now we're in the learning zone, and we're dealing with the challenges and the problems head on. Now we're confronting our challenges, we're confronting our problems, we're finding solutions, we're really attacking things head on. We're acquiring new skills. So even in the areas that we didn't know how to deal with our challenges and problems, we're learning and acquiring new skills to figure out how to deal with them. And we extend the comfort zone. So now the comfort zone is it is becoming like this is now becoming comfortable for us. Like we thought that the comfort zone was just a space in which we could feel safe and in control, but now we are learning that we are comfortable with fear, we are comfortable dealing with challenges and problems, we are comfortable acquiring new skills and just getting ourselves into a new space. So now the comfort zone is no longer just a small bubble in which we need to feel safe and have control. Then, last but not least, once we leave the learning zone, we finally enter into the growth zone. And that's when we actually find our purpose. We can live our dreams. We start to set new goals. We're realizing all of our aspirations. Like everything is that we've aspired, it's actually happening for us. And that's where we all want to get to. We want to get to that growth zone where we have removed ourselves from our comfort zone and we have broken out of our shell and gotten to that next level. So that to me is really powerful. It's very meaningful. I might link this. Let me see if I'm going to try to link this in the comments of the live, and then I will link this in the description when I post this episode. I will make sure that I drop a link so that you guys can see these charts because they are so good. But I mean, it absolutely takes courage to step out from your comfort zone, to move from zone to zone, especially if you don't have a clear roadmap and especially if you're navigating life by yourself, if you are alone. It is not easy and it can be, quite the challenge. So I don't want anybody to feel like if that is where you are, especially if that's where you are currently, that there is something wrong with you, because like we said at the beginning, there is a good use for comfort zones, but everything in moderation. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I hope you have. It's very popular. It's pretty much what American society, at least, American society is built with principles that are tied to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like this is what American culture kind of defines as needs. And I say that specifically because not just us as people, but the government and the way that it addresses political issues and blah, 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 blah. Now, some people, obviously, politics get crazy over here, and it can be a little interesting. But for the most part, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs is how all of this is how the American culture is something the American culture either created or adopted, or I don't know, the chicken or the egg, which one came first. But this is the reality of how we see what is important in American society and in American culture. So it's a pyramid. You can look it up. You can Google this. But again, I have linked the article in the comments and you can look at it as well on there. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a pyramid where at the very bottom, you have a little section and it carves out the basic human needs. So at the very bottom of basic human needs, you have psychological needs like food, water, warmth, and rest. So we cannot survive, right, without food. We cannot survive without water. We cannot survive without warmth. We cannot survive without rest. I mean, when you say the word warmth, like, oh, wow, like warmth. No, like we need heat. Like we cannot be out here like freezing cold, like catching hypothermia. And we also cannot be wide awake all the time, like not getting the sleep that we need. So it's not just rest, like we need sleep. Like these are our basic human needs. Above our psychological needs, but also still a basic need, is our safety needs. So we also, in basic need world, need security and safety. So the way it works is that when people have food, water, warmth, and rest, then they worry about security and safety. But if you don't have food, water, warmth, and rest, and I do mean all four, security and safety are not you're not worried about that right now. When you don't have food, you're not worrying about security and safety. When you don't have water, you're not worrying about security and safety. You're worrying about food and water. And then you'll worry about security and safety after you attain your food and water. And so that's how it's supposed to be set up. Okay. And then next, there's a section, psychological needs. So above basic needs are our actual psychological needs, which is separate from basic psychological needs. Sorry. Okay. So basic needs was physiological needs. I was like, what? How is food, water, warmth, and rest a psychological need? Y'all forgive me. I'm so sorry. So just so we're clear, the very bottom rung is physiological need, not psychological need. Now, after we leave the basic need category, we enter into two categories within the psychological needs. So above safety needs are belongingness and love needs. That includes our intimate relationships, friends, and I guess family. I would assume family is in here somewhere. There's probably, belongingness and love needs. I think family is included in intimate relationships because intimate relationships are not just watered down to be romantic partnerships. So I love this because I think a lot of times that is one of the reasons why I feel so strongly that we have to spend time on this much time on the relationship series. Like I wanted it to be a series because this hierarchy of needs actually scientifically proven that like this is something that we as humans really need. We need belongingness and love. Like we need it. It's like we are a flower that cannot grow without water, food, warmth, and rest, safety and security, and relationships. And so, that's really important for us. And then our esteem needs, which are prestige and feelings of accomplishment. So another like, boom, like what? Like we need that? No, you absolutely do. And everybody is searching for it and don't let them lie to you. We are all searching for it in our own way, shape, or form. Even if we're not searching for it in the same way that somebody else is, we're all searching for that sense of prestige and a feeling of accomplishment. And then at the very tippy top, the crown, chief, whatever of the pyramid, is in a category entitled self-fulfillment needs. It is our self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. That is at the tippy top of our hierarchy of needs. And so again, once we are hitting all of these things, physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness, love, and esteem, that's when we really should be focusing on achieving our full potential and, getting those creative juices fully out of us, like really letting that run its course and all that we were destined to be is able to come out. And the reason why I believe that this was included in this article, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is because the reality is that is what we're all aiming for. We're all aiming for this. We're all wanting to be in relationship, and we're all wanting eventually for all of these things to lead and to culminate into us just being our best self possible. Like that's why we have been chanting on the internet about, I'm trying to be my best self, the best version of myself. Like this rhetoric is not new. Like it's not new. We've all been trying to get there. This article just titles it self-actualization with, fancy schmancy psychology terminology. So, but that's what we're all aiming for. That is our goal. And the bottom line is that you don't get there without leaving your comfort zone. And so that is why you kind of need to assess that for yourself. Are there areas on that, like, do you just want to stay at the bottom of the pyramid with food, water, warmth, and rest, and safety and security, or are you trying to get to the level two? And literally level two, the first one after food, water, warmth, rest, and security is relationships. So we're going to dive into it a little bit deeper and talk about why you need to leave your comfort zone in order to engage in relationships. But yeah, like if that is something that you desire for yourself, you have to leave your comfort zone each time to level up into the next place in the pyramid. So I hope that that was useful for you guys, because I really love that article, and I think it's very useful, especially if you want to understand more about the human psychology, the brain, why it does what it does, why we do what we do as humans, and just understanding yourself better. So the Better Up article, betterup.com article, was also useful for a couple of things in just kind of really pinpointing why it might be difficult to leave your comfort zone. Some of which we already talked about, like fear and anxiety. You may also have temptation of comfort. Like I said, this feels really good for you. And so, um, you know, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to be. Like you really just, oh, I feel so much better when I'm in my comfort zone. I love to rest. I love to be with my friends. Like there's so much temptation because it feels good. And it might also be difficult to leave because you have a fixed mindset, right? If you're telling yourself constantly, I can't, or that will never happen. If your mind works in that kind of way where frame life through a lens of I can't, or that won't happen, or this or that, then that could also be a reason why it's difficult for you to leave. And then also if you have fixed habits of this is how it has to be, or behavioral patterns that just kind of keep you stagnant, things that you have been doing that have been just kind of keeping you in a loop of, stagnant and just behavior that isn't really getting you anywhere in life or getting you towards your goals. Because you might have gotten somewhere in life where we can pat you on the back, but at the same time, you have additional goals or you're trying to reach that self-actualization phase. But you're not. Like there could be some things that are keeping you stagnant. I know that. I'm gonna just go ahead and jump right on in and say I'm one of those persons. Like I literally just called out myself because I have achieved a lot in life, but I still have all these other things that I want to do. But I have patterns and behavioral things that are like I'm holding on to that are not actually conducive to me growing and becoming the person that I actually want to become. And it actually is making me like, whoa, like I feel like I just had a revelation right now. Like, oh my gosh, like I am the one that is in the way. Like I need to just get up and just do my life differently. Like I just need to do life different. And or I might have some underlying fears or anxieties or just fixed habits as well, mindsets that I need to look at and address because I am definitely stuck in the comfort zone. So how do you leave your comfort zone? So they list out a bunch of different things that I think are really helpful. This is just, again, like I said, we're addressing the two different chunks. Like this is just comfort zones in general. Then we're going to dive more into like how all of this is tied to relationships. But they have some helpful tips. The Better Up article has some helpful tips that you can start with that I think are really helpful because they are practical tools or practical things that you can do to really kind of push yourself into these spaces and kind of show yourself and prove to yourself like, hey, like it's okay, you got this. Like you can leave your comfort zone. And so here's the list. It says, do one thing you've always wanted to. So sometimes It's like, what do you mean doing things you've always wanted to? No, because if it's always wanted to, that means you haven't been doing it. And there's a reason why you haven't been doing it. And why is that? It's usually out of fear. It could be for other things like time and, money or whatever. But just kind of search that archive for yourself and see if there's anything that you can do now that you've been putting off that you shouldn't be putting off. You should take on a fitness challenge. Fitness challenges are great. They're really good at helping you build discipline and all sorts of things that I think will be really useful, and just like getting your brain right, getting your body right, like pushing yourself, challenge yourself, seeing what your body is physically capable of helps you to see that you have more available in you than you think in other areas in your life too. Changing up your routine. So you may have a routine that you've gotten really used to, and it may be making, you might be getting used to it or comfortable with it. Maybe switch it up, wake up a little bit earlier, or if you already wake up early, but you go to bed late, start going to bed earlier, or, cut out TV and add book reading, things like that. Change your routine, expand your professional skill sets. So pick up a book, go on YouTube, learn a new trade, learn a new skill. Choose a fear. So identify something that you are afraid of and face it head on. And if you are like, what? That's the whole point. I'm afraid of it. Why would I face it? Go watch a YouTube video. There are plenty of people on here that will share with you how they overcame something like that you probably have a fear of, like public speaking, or if you have a fear of spiders, or if you have a fear of, networking or going to parties or socializing. Like, there are plenty of resources to help you overcome your fear. So choose one and face it. Travel somewhere new. And so, yeah, if you're someone who has been stuck in the same city or area all your life and you never really ventured out, definitely go somewhere new. Go by yourself, or just bring one friend that you trust, and make the world your oyster. But yeah, like I said, these are all, again, specifically just related to comfort zones and the reality of how we can bring ourselves some awareness of the fact that we have potentially created comfort zones and spaces we didn't even realize. And all of these little tips on how to get out, or ways that can help you get out, are designed to help you really push yourself and create this like reasonable and predictable amount of adversity in your life so you can overcome them and learn and understand your own strengths, your own resiliency. The reality, though, is that life is always going to bring you some sort of adversity on its own. So it's like, why create it? But it's still helpful. And you'll need it. You'll need to know how strong you are, how resilient you are, how sharp you are, how incredible you are, so that you don't always just jump into your comfort zone when life does actually bring you real adversity. And you'll be able to kind of lean into life's curveballs a little bit better. And that's all we could really hope for and ask for. Okay. So, relationship comfort zones. I just kind of want to go through a couple of them with you. There are some that I've identified that I want to, leave me a comment, give me some sort of indication. Let me know if this is something that, if these are comfort zones that you have found for yourself. These are a lot of ones that I have identified within myself that I have struggled with in terms of relationships. And I want to know if there are others that I didn't mention. So, because now we're leaving the articles and now we're just walking back into the discussion of relationships. So for me, relationship comfort zones have been things like only hanging out with people just like myself. Like, if you are not just like me, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get that. Like, why would I want to do that? Like, no, thank you. Dating a specific type, oh, that's my type. Or, oh, that's not my type, so I'm good on that. And a lot of times, these are based on meaningless attributes. Like it's not, oh, I'm hanging around people of good character. Oh, I have a certain type of caliber of man based on character and based on, things that are meaningful. These are usually things that are meaningless. A lot of times you'll see people only associating with other people of the same ethnic background. Like that's good, right? Because you have something in common, but it really just shows your shallowness and your inability to really open up and connect and really branch out and attempt to embrace another culture. Because a lot of people are like, oh, those silly Americans, or oh, like I don't want to hang out with these girls because they just don't understand. Like these people don't understand the culture. It's like, no, we don't. We didn't grow up with that. Like, how about we, work together to understand one another? And a lot of times people just don't want to do that work because they don't want to admit that they are stuck in their comfort zone and they like to be in control and understand, and they want their environment to be predictable. And that's just not good in the grand scheme. It doesn't really lead to any real positive. It doesn't really lead to any real positive growth or any real helpful. It doesn't really lead to positive growth or any real helpful just things that you really need, skills, character traits. It doesn't build anything for you or for your relationships. So another relationship comfort zone could also be like the way that you date or the way that you make friends. You might be super calculated with both of these things, or you could even be super traditional with your thought process on how to do it. And you could also say to yourself, unless it happens just like this, then I don't want it or I'm not doing it. And basically what I'm trying to get at is like, you're so close-minded, which is kind of going back to that, your mindset, or it could just be like your habits. It has to be a certain way. It must be like this. This is the only way. And that's not always a bad thing, but it could be a reflection of you having to just be in control of the environment and not wanting to leave your comfort zone. I think it's okay to have standards, especially when we're talking about dating and even with friends and also with family. But usually when you hear things like it has to be this way and it must be like this and this is the exact way, there's not a lot of thought that has gone into a lot of reflection, a lot of intentionality behind it. And it's coming from a space of fear more so than a space of, like I said, intention and real preparation and thought. And so that's not good. Another relationship comfort zone is being like too quick to cut someone off, or even not being quick enough to cut someone off because you have actually gotten too comfortable. Like now this person is your comfort zone and you are just like, no, oh my God, I'm just, you make excuses for them. And then, of course, being too quick to cut someone off is also a reaction out of fear. Like you are not allowing yourself to go through the entire process. Even if the end result is to cut them off, you haven't grown because you felt something or you didn't like something. And so you said, boom, I'm done. You kind of have to, I'll take this information with a grain of salt, right? But I do think that there are instances, where you have to obviously use discernment, but you don't like cutting someone off too quickly isn't going to be beneficial for you or them. Ghosting, all of that, very mature. And so just kind of pushing yourself to, even when you've decided you're no longer interested in the person, just go about it the right way and end it the right way. I think that's, kind of what we would want to aim for, instead of just kind of disposing of someone and discarding someone as if they are, trash or waste. In some cases, people are trash and they do need to be discarded, but there's no way that you can determine that within like 60 seconds of meeting someone. So, another relationship comfort zone is that 9 times out of 10, though, if you have been struggling in relationships like I have, you have a lot of incognito comfort zones that you don't even know about. So, like, maybe this is a time for you to really sit down and look at, your relationships and reflect back on them and think on some of the things that you do without even thinking, maybe even subconsciously, that have caused you to create these comfort zones and that keep you stagnant and that hold you back. And you're kind of just there and you don't know why or how or even how to get out. So let that be a moment for you to reflect, like do some journaling. I think this would be a really good space for journaling, a good topic. It's a good opportunity for journaling. So you can sit down and really dive into just some ways that you can understand why you do what you do and why you operate the way that you do in relationships. And if there are any comfort zones that you've created that aren't actually really helping you and are really just holding you back. So, why is it important to leave your relationship comfort zones? Why should you be leaving relationship comfort zones in the past? Because as we said, self-actualization, we're all supposed to be aiming for our highest and best self. We're all supposed to be aiming to become our best selves and grow and really achieve, this heightened version of ourselves that is achieving purpose and doing good in the world. Self-actualization. That is absolutely the case. However, there are so many other things involved in this as well. Relationships really do require a healthy amount of selflessness. Okay. And we talked about understanding in last week's episode and the fact that you have to get to a space where you want to understand the people on the other side, the individual, the boss, the supervisor, the business deal person. You want to understand the person on the other side. You have to, when you're creating comfort zones, because it's normally about your own personalized fear and your own personalized sense of comfort and control, you're hyper focusing on your needs and your issues. And again, we're looking for balance. We're looking for understanding, and we're also looking for just a way to share in these experiences with other people so that we're not just like hoarding everything within ourselves and running away and just kind of putting up all of these walls and boundaries and things that are not actually required. You want to have a healthy sense of when to let your walls down and when to have them up. Because otherwise, when you are constantly someone who attempts to enter a relationship that is, and you're hyper focused on control, and not necessarily of the other person, but really just control of the environment or a perceived control of everything. A lot of times that leads to very unhealthy relationship dynamics and sometimes potentially toxic dynamics. And yeah, those relationships just don't last. They don't last in any setting. In friendships, they don't last in work relationships, and they definitely don't last in romantic partnerships. So, relationship comfort zones actually are really big in terms of needing to, move them along and free yourself from them because they cause problems. And if they don't cause problems right away, they will eventually. So, yeah, you need to grow. Life is all about growing, and your relationship will grow when you leave your comfort zones in the past. We obviously talked about the whole self-actualization thing and reaching your highest self, but the relationship itself has, the potential to reach amazing heights, and you have no idea what God has in store to use your relationship to do, to touch lives or whatever. You just have no idea. And so it could be held back by you or the other person just kind of staying in a stagnant space. I mean, you have much higher chances of getting promoted at work, creating stronger bonds with your friends, and even deeper romantic partnerships when you address your fear head on and, really get out of this space that's holding you back. Most relationships require a team dynamic. I don't know a relationship that doesn't require that in some way, shape, or form. Even if you're not working together per se, you usually have some sort of common goal that you're both trying to achieve in your own way. And either way, there's a team dynamic or some sort of partnership aspect, right? Because this thing needs to be mutually beneficial for everybody involved. So it just can't be all about your need to protect yourself all of the time. At some point, you come out of that space and really learn that the other place that you're trying to engage in is also safe. And that's something that I really wanted to kind of make sure that I highlight for you guys, is that in all of this, right, this entire series, as well as the episodes prior to this, you're working on yourself, but you're working now on evaluating the other spaces that you're going to be entering into, because you need to be able to know that that space over there is also a comfort zone. Like, you're extending your comfort zone. You've tackled your challenges, right? And now your comfort zone extends to include these other people, because these people are also safe. This environment is also safe with these other people and their life, their world experiences. I have chosen these for a reason because of what I understand them to be. And now I am happy and able to be happy in relationship with these people. So now we talked about all the reasons why it is good to leave them, but how to leave your relationship comfort zone. So you do need to know yourself. Okay. That's foundational series, episodes 1-11. Know yourself, exactly who you are, what you will not tolerate, what you struggle with, your highs, your lows, your strengths, your weaknesses. Know yourself. But you also, like I was just talking about, know and understand the other people involved. You need to know, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what do they align themselves with? What kinds of lifestyle choices are they making? What kind of business choices are they making? What type of, monetary choices are they making? Understand, again, yourself, and understand the other person and what that means for you once you see who they are, right? And what they have going on. Is that something that you can join together? Is that something that you want to participate in? Is that something that will help you flourish, that can help build you, that can help grow you, that can help to strengthen you? And you also really have to be clear about what you want to get out of it too, because if you don't care about any of that stuff, then none of this really matters. So you just have to be clear. And then from there, you'll establish your boundaries once you understand who the other person is. And this is why the boundaries are important, because the other person doesn't have to be perfect. The other person doesn't have to be living in, just a state of perfection and amazingness. They can have flaws. They can have differences from you. But you have to understand what those differences mean to you, why they are there in the first place, but you're still willing to enter a relationship. And if those differences are going to impact you anyway, what are you going to do to put up the boundaries and do the things you need to do to make sure that you are still protected without, and I repeat, without retorting to your comfort zone? Boundaries are a way to extend that comfort zone. Now you are extending, that comfort zone and putting the barriers in a different space, and it looks completely different. And this is what I was just talking about, is that knowing what a safe space looks and feels and smells like. So what does that look like for you? What does it look like to find safety in friendships for you? What does it look like to find safety in workspace dynamics with you? What does it look like to find safety in romantic partnerships with you? What does it look, feel, and smell like? You need to know it so that when you don't see it, you won't try to make it be something that it's not. And you will just know, like, this isn't for me, or maybe it kind of is, but I'm probably going to need a couple of boundaries, right? So if you skip this step, you will be at a greater risk, right, of whatever you're fearful of, because this is really important. This knowing what it feels and looks like for you. A lot of people skip this step because they're just like, I'm just going to go ahead and test it out. No, not yet. We're not there yet. And the next step, though, is to test those waters, and you need to test them early. Go ahead and determine whether or not this is safe. Is this a safe space? If you're, interviewing for a job, go ask somebody at the job site some very specific questions that will help you understand the culture and understand the environment. If you are trying to determine whether this is going to be a friendship which you want to invest more time in, ask that person to help you out. If you want to know and see what their response is, what is their response when you ask for help? If you want to know if this is a romantic relationship that you should continue to invest your time in, do the same thing. Ask them to help you out and see what their response is. Or tell them that you're going through something very challenging and see what their response is. Don't even tell them that you need help. Just tell them you're going through something challenging and see if they offer to help. Test these waters very early on in the relationship in a reasonable way and see what the results are. Like a testing strip. Like, literally, you'll have a testing strip and you'll need to read the results after you test those waters. And you don't just read them, but once you read them, you will listen to those results and actually handle them accordingly, right? So if the test results come back all clear, you can use a little bit of discernment, okay, right? But you should be good. It may be okay to go ahead and let your guard down and leave your comfort zone and enter into that next zone, the learning zone or what have you. And then you can start to move forward in the growth zone. But also, if the test results come back iffy, okay, if it comes back a little like, well, I don't know about this one, then you're going to go ahead and put up some boundaries. You're going to say, okay, I didn't like that response, but let me go ahead and save myself anyway from whatever this could potentially be, and put up some boundaries and just make sure we're all on the same page as I continue to test this out and continue to inch forward out of my comfort zone. And the same thing, obviously, if it comes back crazy, then you just probably need to walk away. If the test results do not come back the way they should, you should probably just go ahead and walk away. But also, I just want to do a disclaimer, right, for the green flags when it comes back all clear. If it does come back with all the green flags and everything seems good to go, just be careful with that too, right? It doesn't mean that you go all the way. It doesn't mean that you just let yourself free, right? You still have to use your discernment, because there are some people that are out there that are crafty, that are tricky, that are manipulative, and you just need to use discernment, move at your own pace, use boundaries when you need them. But know that when it does come back all clear, that's a great sign. A great sign. Okay, guys. So I just want to leave you with a verse. it is the verse that I was talking about at the beginning. It's actually a passage. It's James 1, 2 through 8. So it's kind of long, but I want to read the whole thing because I feel like it really just encapsulates this entire, you know, this entire topic, the entire topic of comfort zones. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. If you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do." So I don't really have the time to unpack this entire passage. And there's a lot, especially in that last set of verses 5 through 8, especially when we're talking about divided loyalty. And the reason I will just share why I wanted to keep that in there is because there does have to be a certain amount of faith, and there has to be a certain amount of trust in God in the process, in letting him grow you and letting him wield you and letting him help you, give you the wisdom, discernment to navigate this whole thing. And if you don't have that, this whole thing doesn't work. None of this works, right? Like, you have to trust in God and allow him to lead you, give you the discernment, and believe that he's going to help you get through it. So when you're leaning on God and you're trusting in the Lord, you don't run back to your comfort zone. You're stepping out, you're on faith now, and you're moving forward, right? But of course, the first section of this verse and passage really do encapsulate everything we've discussed, talking about how beautiful it is to be tested. It is a great opportunity for great joy. So we're sitting up here crying and upset and frustrated because of the adversity, when in reality, it's supposed to be a time of great joy. And something I wanted to say, particularly related to relationships, when it comes to this and this specific verse, is that a lot of times it's the building of the relationships, but it's also when you're in the relationships as well. Sometimes you will encounter adversity in trying to build the relationship, but sometimes you will encounter it in navigating the relationship. And we didn't really talk about that when it comes to relationship comfort zones. And I do know that one relationship comfort zone that we often tend to end up in when we're already in relationship is that when the other side makes us upset, whether it's your boss, whether it's your boyfriend, or whether it's your best friend. And we tend to run into whatever comfort zone that is, whether it's I'm not coming into work on time anymore, whether it's, I'm giving this person the silent treatment. I'm not talking to you all day anymore, or I'm never talking to that girl again. She, whatever she call me, whatever that space is, that's a space, that's a comfort zone. That's a comfort zone. That's you going into a space where you now can be protected from the thing that hurt you, because you are now fearful and you want to have control. And the reality is, you got to drop that too. You got to drop that too. Because these moments when somebody angers you, upsets you, and frustrates you, those are tests. Those are challenges. We should be considering them opportunities for great joy and an opportunity to handle it differently. When somebody upsets you, let me now not just retort to my habits and my ways of thinking that I just think always have been, and this is how it's supposed to be. No, like, I want to go about this in a way that really makes sense for the woman I'm trying to become, for the man I'm trying to become, for the leader I want to become, for the friend I want to become, for the wife that I want to become. And so now I'm going to go about this in a different way, because this is an opportunity to grow. I need to be able to endure a certain amount of adversity. Not, I'm not, y'all already know, I am not up here advocating or promoting or encouraging any sort of, hey, you need to sit up here and deal with nonsense, abuse, toxicity. No, a certain amount of adversity, though, okay, is going to come in any relationship dynamic. That's literally just life. That's how it works. And you have to be willing, ready, and available to face it with a mindset of growth, with a mindset of, I'm going to come into this to be with a perspective of being that amazing, mature, soft-spoken, mild-mannered, well-meaning, well-intentioned, all of these things that you are speaking over yourself that you want to be for others, for yourself, for your friends, for your children. That person, that's who you need to aspire to be in these moments when the adversity comes. Obviously, we all have really difficult moments when, we get emotional and we get hit with things. And sometimes our initial reaction is not the best. I'm not talking about the initial reaction. I'm just talking about how you progress through the adversity. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that with you guys as well, since the majority of this episode, when we did hit the relationship portion, was absolutely focused on how we enter into relationships, but navigating them and maintaining them are just as important, because adversity is going to come up time and time again. And so you don't want to be one of those people that just gives up at the drop of a hat or the sign of a challenge. So that is all that I have for you guys today. I'm so excited. This was fun. This live episode was great. It went longer than I thought it would go, in terms of just, wow, I had so much content and information. So I may end up splitting this one up in terms of the recording for the actual, and dropping it on the, podcast platforms. We'll see. I don't really know how this works in terms of ending a live on our Podbean hosting app. I don't know if it gets published immediately or how that works, or if I'll be able to play with it or edit it or anything like that. But either way, this was great. And I hope that you guys are blessed by this episode. I think one of the takeaways that I do want to leave you with is just that leaving your comfort zone is always going to lead to growth. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. So if you're second guessing leaving your comfort zone, the answer is always yes. Timing is key, though. Doesn't mean you just jump right out, right? We talked about no, we're not jumping out on the deep end just because we feel like that's what we need to do. Sometimes there's preparation, prayer, and pause is very, very useful. But eventually preparing yourself to leave that comfort zone is a mindset that's always going to cause you to win, cause you to grow. And that's what we want. Make sure you're doing your homework in these types of situations. Know the people that you're around, understand the relationship dynamics that you are attaching yourself to and attempting to enter into before you go ahead and invest that time, effort, and energy. Because once you've already done that, then you're like, wait a minute, why did I leave my comfort zone for this person? But yeah, it's okay. It's okay to leave your comfort zone. It's okay to stay in your comfort zone until you're ready, but just know the timing, know that everything in moderation, and know that, there's always going to be a healthy amount of adversity that is going to come with navigating any sort of relationship dynamic. So that's it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Those of you who are listening live, those of you who are listening later, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We are on IG at Carved Wellness, and also on YouTube. I know the YouTube channel is Carved Wellness, so I don't know how that works, but if you just type in Carved Wellness, or you can type in the Crafted and Carved podcast, you can find all of our latest episodes, as well as all of our amazing content that we put out related to the podcast, and you can stay up to date for when we drop new information and new episodes. As promised last week, guys, I totally screwed up in forgetting to drop you guys the recipe. There is a recipe that is out. It is a Greek bowl. It's very savory and delicious. It's a Greek protein bowl. It is so much fun. We've got orzo pasta layered with some vegetables and hummus and ziti. I actually stole this from one of my friends. So if she ever listens to this, I love you because you were the one that made it for me and inspired me to be able to make it for myself, because I absolutely am obsessed with kava. I don't know if you guys have gone to kava before, but I'm a huge kava junkie. And because of that, those Mediterranean and Greek bowls were a hit. So I wanted to share them with you guys. They're super easy to make. The link will be in the description. So that's it. Oh, next week we're going to do a live episode again as well, if I can manage to figure out how to make it work. It will be on YouTube. This went so well that I feel like a live episode on YouTube is, it's only right. So we're going to be testing that out next week. I believe Monday at 8 p.m. So if that changes, I will let you know on the Instagram. So that's absolutely why you need to be following us at Carved Wellness on IG. I did add in, you guys are going to hate me, but I did add in a few more relationship cornerstones just to, I believe, the Lord kind of just guides my spirit and lets me know like, hey, like I want you to talk about this. Like, let's add this here. And I rearranged some things. And so, we will have a few more relationship cornerstones that we will cover before we really hit into some of the more straightforward topics regarding relationships, and before we start bringing in some special guests. So yeah, that is all of the stuff that I wanted to cover. And please, guys, do not be shy. Don't feel like you can't reach out. DM me, send me questions, send me suggestions, feedback, any improvements or things you want to see, people you want to hear from, especially if you guys have any ideas of people. I'm on social media, but I'm not like so in it that I really am like learning the podcast space, and I don't really know who all of the popular podcasters are. So if there's any podcasters that you guys think that I should be following, there's anybody that you think I should connect with, like, just anything that you think would be useful or helpful, please shout them out, DM me their information. And yeah. Okay. Well, I will see you guys next week again for the live episode next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love you guys so much, and thank you for listening. Bye.